You will like this show. But, Butte might get to that first. Anyways, I'm
Hello,
flying
yeah.
Ryan Gokers along with.
Tampa Motor Mouth Joel Vernon. That might just be in my final thought.
More on that coming later.
Oh boy, you thought Calvin Ridley was juicy. This goes way beyond that.
It's so funny. Not as funny as watching Bills fans cry in the stands, but that's my final thought. We'll get to that later. Anyways, we're
Yeah.
here to recap quickly.
What was the dumber play? Just the puzzling offense all day long with just
It was
pretty
the
much
fake punt.
Josh. Yeah.
I don't care what else you say. The dumbest play was the fake punt.
Why the hell, excuse my lingo, are you doing a fake punt in that situation to DeMar Hamlin? It would be better to do a fake throw.
Yeah, 4th and 5 or 4th and 6 from your own 30. You hand it to a guy who is legally dead just over 14 months ago, instead of leaving your MVP finalist quarterback on the field to try and go for it. If you want to go for it there, that's fine, but why put yourself at that stupid disadvantage? They didn't get punished for it because Mecole Hardman, which is probably the second runner-up for dumbest play of the weekend, handing it to Mecole Hardman.
The only weekend where everybody is focused on whether or not a butt cheek crack crossed the plane.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a weird week. And we'll go over the games quickly. Again, at this point, if you're following, you
can I drink from the cup of glory? I know I'm probably cursing myself for this week 4-0.
I don't know why, even though I hit the mute button. Stupid ads. I don't care about you, Little Caesars. Justin Jefferson and Little Caesars. Stop playing in my ear. Anyways,
I have to drink from the cup of glory.
Yeah, you do that. I'm literally watching the thing turn on and turn off, but the volume doesn't change.
That's because it's like the Borg. Resistance is futile. You will watch the ad no matter what.
I just wanted to mute it. I don't care if it plays. I just didn't want to hear it in here because you're like something drinking from some cup of glory. I don't know what you're referring. And all of a sudden it's like, you want a Little Caesars pizza? I'm like, no. I mean, maybe later, but no. Don't want a Little Caesars pizza. Anyways.
What do you have on the pizza?
Oh, just straight pepperoni.
Oh, okay.
So, even though I'll say I don't mind a pepperoni and anchovy. I'm one of those guys.
You got to go with the pepperoni, sausage, and ground beef. Heavy on the meat.
Oh yeah, all good things. Anyways, to the games
today. Pizza talk on the Sports Shuffle.
Yeah, pizza talk. Thank you, Justin Jefferson had for Little Caesars for getting that started. Anyways, we'll start with the first game of the weekend. Ravens 34-10 win over the Houston Texans. Was 10-10 at halftime, and then Baltimore decided to show up. I did kind of have the prediction on this game correct.
Baltimore
come out
went
slow.
Yoink.
Yeah, I did have the mentality on both of the onesies coming out slow, letting their lesser opponent hang around. Baltimore turned it on big time in the second half and blew the doors off. Lamar Jackson, MVP favorite, showed you why in the second half of that game. The Houston Texans offense, led by almost certain offensive rookie of the year, C.J. Stroud, could not get anything going. A punt return was their only touchdown.
Are you tired of hearing about Houston? They have a bright future, said about 5 gajillion freaking times this week.
I feel like Houston might be this year's version of Detroit at the end of last year, where they got red hot at the end. They kicked the Packers out of the playoffs, and people were like, oh, they got such a good future. They're so good. If they draft well again, this team could really be a threat next year. C.J. Stroud hopefully takes that next step in year 2. He was very good, but he was not, top-end elite quarterback. He's kind of a, Justin Herbert-ish level right now, which I know some people in Tua. Some people might hear Herbert and Tua and think, oh, he's pretty good. He is pretty good. But when you have Mahomes and you have Allen, you have Lamar Jackson, and a few others in the AFC, being pretty good is not quite good enough. But the Texans, they do have a bright future, as Joel said. Need to get a running back and kind of tinker with that defense. Maybe get him a proper number 1 wide receiver. Nico Collins, very, very good. But imagine if he was your number 2 and you weren't relying on guys like Noah Brown. Add in Tank Dell coming back from the injury next year. That's a team that could really explode with a couple offensive pieces.
Would Dameon Pierce be the center square on the not you mean? Thank you for such a great season. Not you.
Yeah, He was bad. 4th round draft pick in a lot of fantasy leagues, and he was
Like,
he was a bust. He was definitely a bust. We'll talk over some fantasy
yeah.
stuff at the end of next year. I've already got mock drafts in for the rookie draft, though, and I'm very excited for that because I've got one league where I have 6 first rounders in a couple seconds. Anywho, Ravens move on. They will host the AFC Championship game. We'll get to who they face here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. Then we go to the nightcap where the 49ers, they were outplayed for most of this game, but the 49ers do come back and win 24-21
through clutch in the end.
It was the story of one team making the big plays when they had the opportunity. The other did not. The Packers, several dropped interceptions on Brock
showed up
Purdy.
for the second straight week in a row.
They played great. They would have been a very dangerous team. The last time the Packers won the Super Bowl, they came in as the bottom seed, given it was a 6 seed at the time. But the 49ers score a very late touchdown to take the lead. Jordan Love immediately turns the ball over a la Brett Favre, trying to throw a hero ball into triple coverage in the middle of the field because he only had about a minute to go down to get a field goal. But the Packers, what we said about the Texans kind of rings true about the Packers. They have a very, very bright future. Outside of A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they've got a very young core of very good offensive weapons. Aaron Jones showed out in this playoffs that he has still got it, but he is getting 28, 29 years old. That's old for a running back. A.J. Dillon, he's not the guy. I think if the Packers want to take that next step, they either need to go get a good running back to pair with Aaron Jones or maybe take over for Aaron Jones for next season or draft the young guy that maybe can sit behind Aaron Jones 1 year and then take that next step in 2025. Good year for the Packers, even though only a 9-8 record. I think they're on the upward swing. Of course, we see teams like this come up and then drop the next season, so hopefully the Packers can stay go in the right direction. The Niners also will host the NFC Championship game against the Detroit Lions, who beat Joel's Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23 in what was a very entertaining game throughout. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a very, very great running back in this league for an extended period of time. Baker Mayfield. Joel, with how down you were on Baker Mayfield
I know
feel about your long-term, hopefully, quarterback right now.
He turned out to be maybe a league winner for a lot of people. You were just kind of scoffing at him. He was way down there. You wanted to get one of the sexier picks, and he just absolutely balled out. And he's got to be back. They've got to sign Mike Evans. They've got to sign Baker Mayfield and stay competitive in NFC South with some of these coaching changes. It looks interesting. Of course, OC Dave Canales, now a head coach of the Panthers. Good, may the force definitely be with you with that whole such. And of course, Raheem Morris. Raheem
coach.
Going to the Atlanta Falcons. As there was a meme where apparently it had Bill Belichick bringing up what the final number was that he wanted to Arthur Blank. He said, "How about 28.3 million?" Then you just have a face of Arthur Blank looking not amused at all, but in reality, probably what kept the hoodie out of Atlanta. Just Bill Belichick wants too much power. You don't have a lot of teams willing to give him not only the keys to the head coaching office, but also the keys to the GM, especially with how the Patriots have done in recent years.
Yeah, you look at the last 5 years of him being the GM. Of course, we have the meme from the 2020 draft where it's his dog in his chair and it's got the Bill Belichick tag.
Oh, look at the cute doggy.
I'll say this, look at the draft picks, and the dog probably could have done better the last few years because the Patriots, since Tom Brady left, have been on a downward spiral since a lot of those good players have started to depart. I don't know how much Belichick's clout really is, but after the last few years of that team descending, having someone come in who's in their early 70s come in and be your, judge, jury, and executioner essentially, that's not appealing when you can go and get a guy like Morris who has head coaching experience. The reports out of that is he had a fantastic set of interviews with Atlanta, and he blew the doors off the building, and everybody's like, no, he's got to be here. And he was also there in the past as interim head coach. So, they're looking for either the next Sean McVay, Mike McDaniels style of coach, Matt LaFleur, who's going to be very young, very talented, Mike Tomlin, if you go back a ways, who can, lead a team into the future and be a dominant head coach, a great mind, or you're going to get a guy who is just going to come in, run the system that they need to run, and
Yeah,
let the rest of the organization do their job.
the last two landing spots really don't seem to suit Coach Belichick really much at all. You have, of course, the Seahawks, and I was listening to the radio, and there's a good point. Somebody said, "Okay, Seahawks just, you know, basically promoted, aka parted ways with Pete Carroll, 70-year-old plus head coach, and they really weren't going to trade for Bill Belichick about the same age." And it's like, they probably want somebody younger. And does Belichick really want to go to the Commanders? I think not.
No, I think the appeal for him with the Atlanta job was that this is a team that, with a quarterback, because that's the real Achilles heel of that team right now, is they do not have a good quarterback. You get him a quarterback, whether that is Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins, or
Just
you
on
go and
field.
you be aggressive in the draft and move up and try and get, Drake London or Nichols or whoever at the top of the draft, because there's a few good ones out there this year. If you're aggressive and say, we're going to trade up to, let me see, number 2, number 3, and say, okay, we're going to take Jalen Daniels or we're going to take Drake May, you could probably do that and be pretty good pretty quick for Atlanta. You don't have that in Washington. They're picking number 2, but that cupboard is bare on defense. The offensive weapons, McLaurin's good.
Yeah,
Dotson's
Washington
okay.
traded away 2 of their main top defensive players. Chase Young traded away, and just niche.
Brian Robinson seems like a very good, serviceable running back, but you don't have game breakers on the offense. You don't have a good defense. It's one of the situations. Washington, they need someone that they're going to say, okay, you're going to be here for 3, 4, 5 years. We understand it's going to be rough for at least the next 2. We're going to hope to see some progress year 3 to year 4. And that's how they're going to get better. But I don't know if they're going to do that. But anyways, back to your Bucks.
Yeah, got to give them credit. Got to give them credit. They really fought the Lions, hung around longer than I thought they would, really. I mean, especially because of the Lions offense, I was worried, not really Lions defense, even though they have definitely stepped up with the Lions D in the playoffs. But just that interception, all of a sudden you're like, all right, LFG, Bucks are in this, and literally split second later, heartbreaking game-winning sealing interception by the Detroit Lions defense. And you got to hand it to Baker. He was like, yeah, this sucks. It's like, nobody likes to lose, but nobody really had the Bucks, I think, even in the divisional playoffs, and having an actual legit shot to win it. So re-sign Evans, have a good draft, whatever that means. Maybe buff up that O-line, as it definitely needs a little buff in there. And who knows, maybe add some defense. But the Bucks did far better than even last year.
Yeah, last year with Brady was an 8-9 season. I think Baker Mayfield played a little bit better.
And then they got stomped by the Cowboys in the first round.
Yeah. At least this year they got a little bit further. And even with all the injuries, I think Rachaad White, they've shown that they've got it. And Palmer was very good for them as a wide receiver. So they have some decent pieces. They do need to find a way to bring back Mike Evans. Evans definitely wants to come back, but they cannot afford to lose him. But at least they have some other pieces around.
Speaking of sleepers, you were mentioning Baker Mayfield. How about Rachaad White? He was disappointing in the first half, but just absolutely killed it in the second half.
Yeah, he was a very good fantasy draft pick if you took him. I think he was going 5th, 6th type of round just because he was a starter, but he went after Dameon Pierce. He went after a lot of these guys that were just not very good. So he was a good value.
Austin Eckler.
I mean, the best value of the draft this year was Raheem Mostert, who finished the running back too. But after that, I think Rachaad White has to be in the consideration for the next best draft pick. Brian Robinson's in that range because of how late you got him, but he paid you very good dividends. If you banked on Rachaad White or picked him up as a flex option, you had a good buffer because there was a lot of busts at the top this year, and Eckler being one of the biggest ones. Anyways, we'll move on to the final game of the weekend. My favorite game of the weekend because of the result. The Chiefs defeat the Bills 27-24 in a game that was sloppy throughout, as the Chiefs just find a way once again in the postseason to advance. And the Bills.
How many times did you see Josh Allen fumble the ball and his team having to go, oh crap, he did it again? Going, he got it.
There were several opportunities for the Chiefs to blow this one open with turnovers that did not fall their way. But the Bills do what the Bills do best, and they lose in big moments.
I knew. I had one of these Nostradamus-like moments when all of a sudden Tyler Bass was lining up, and even before he was getting ready to kick, he's going to miss. Yep, wide right. It was like Scott Norwood astral projected himself and possessed and took over Tyler Bass for that moment in time.
Yeah, and you could tell God hates the Bills because of the way that kick went, because it was going good, and then it just dove out to the right. It wasn't even like a slow fade. It was like good. Nope.
It was like, never mind championship game. They didn't even get past the freaking divisional round this year.
So, yeah, good news for the country. The Bills are out. We do not have to root for the terrorist-loving head coach and the turnover machine of Josh Allen. But the bad news is that means Taylor Swift and the Chiefs continue to move on. Hey, one more week. They will go to Baltimore to play the Ravens. The Lions will go to San Francisco to play the 49ers next week in the championship games. Or this weekend.
You might have heard about that a time or two.
Yeah.
Or 2,000.
Anyways.
Or 200,000 actually, probably this week.
Yeah. Anyways, we will talk about these games here in a little bit. Let's go over some of the ramifications from the postseason so far and cover where the draft order is falling to. So we've already got the top 18 that we've already talked about. We're not going to add on to that. We're going to go 19 to 28 now. Number 19 is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be the first time they have a first-round pick in, I think, 7 or 8 years. It's ridiculous. The Pittsburgh Steelers pick number 20. The Dolphins pick number 21. Philadelphia pick 22. Cleveland traded to Houston in the Deshaun Watson trade is going to be number 23. So Houston picking at number 23. Houston traded away their first-round pick, so that's the only one they got. Dallas at pick number 24. Of the divisional round losers, Green Bay 25, Tampa Bay 26. Arizona via Houston will be picking number 27. And then Buffalo at pick number 28. With still 4 teams left to decide. Of course, that is our Final Four in the NFL. So, let's talk about the games. Win and go to the Super Bowl. Of course, we have the logo conspiracy of the colors where red and purple are this year. So everybody's assuming San Francisco, Baltimore. I don't know if I believe that. They kind of grasped at straws at some of these other colors in the past. But we'll start with Kansas City and Baltimore. Baltimore has been the best team in the AFC for at least the back half of the season.
Baltimore is, of course, favored by 3.5, at least last check. 170 underdog for KC, 210 for Baltimore, and over and under at 44.5.
This could be both of these could be either be really, really good, competitive, tight games.
Do you think we get 2 studs instead of stud and dud, or do we get 2 duds?
I kind of think we get a dud in this game and a stud in the NFC Championship game. Kansas City is coming off of a couple very good wins, beating Miami and beating Buffalo, but both teams they just beat really were shooting themselves in the foot throughout those games. Baltimore looks incredibly sharp once they got past the little bit of rust they had in the first half against Houston. They looked very, very sharp. I expect Baltimore to be motivated, ready to go. Lamar Jackson has not gotten to a Super Bowl yet. They will want to get that done. But for Kansas City, Isaiah Pacheco has been great. Patrick Mahomes has looked better. Travis Kelce, a little bit of a reemergence, 2 touchdowns last week. And the best player for Baltimore is going to sit in Kadarius Toney.
That actually probably helps the Chiefs.
It does. The best player for Baltimore, Kadarius Toney, is not going to be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's out once again. And since the Chiefs have started winning and looking better offensively, surprise, surprise, drop machine Kadarius Toney has not been in the roster. So
it's the Chiefs' 6th consecutive appearance in the AFC Championship game. It's the 2nd longest streak in NFL history, trailing only, of course, New England Patriots, who went to 8 straight conference championship games between 2011 and 2018.
Yeah, to think that we haven't had a non-Patriots Chiefs in the AFC Championship game since 2000. 10 is kind of absurd when it was Colts, Steelers. Kansas City, though, Pat Mahomes, 6-4-6 to start his career going to the AFC Championship game. First time on the road, though, for one. So, Joel, Lamar Jackson is the presumptive MVP. Kansas City has arguably the best coach in football, arguably the best quarterback in football. What do you got?
Okay, going over, got a lot of notes, but I'll try to condense it into cliff notes here. Why to pick KC? Both sides of the coin here. Net turnovers of all the playoff teams, only 4 are in the negative. Rams, Eagles, Browns, and the Chiefs. Baltimore is plus 12. Okay, so referees for the game is Sean Smith. 6th best for road teams in the NFL. Now, why pick Baltimore? Baltimore, in hindsight, being 3.5 at home to Detroit, just absolutely crazy because Baltimore blew out Detroit in that game going in the Wayback Machine here. And okay, so you tend to look at both of these teams. Ravens right now, are 6-1, but they're 3-4 ATS with Sean Smith. But here's an interesting thing, because I know a lot was made about the ref crew that was chosen for this game. At home with Smith, 2-0 ATS, and straight up. Okay. So who am I picking? Am I picking the Chiefs? Am I picking Baltimore? I'm picking Baltimore. Here are my main reasons. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, refs might actually favor Baltimore here. Penalty yards are still yards. 2, Bills won every category save for the most important one, the game. 3, this is the first real test for the Chiefs. Dolphins were frozen, and Bills were destined to lose. Sorry, Bills fans. You know it's true. 4, the switch for the Chiefs was flipped. The main tank is dealing with a toe injury, of course, Pacheco. The receivers are still sus, though, once again, as you mentioned, Kadarius Toney being out, I think helps the Chiefs. And I think this is the first year, the 1 year where Lamar gets over the hump. Why? Because Lamar was healthy all year. No Tyler Huntley at the end. Frustrating for fantasy and didn't help them much in reality. So, first pick. I know it's chalk, and I know you can have the argument for the Chiefs. NFL definitely wants Taylor Swift there. But I think I'm going Baltimore for those reasons. Just, yeah, I know you talk about the Chiefs, he carried them all year, but I think Baltimore has the better D. Going Baltimore.
I'm taking Baltimore as well. I think Baltimore offense is just too much better than the Bills and Dolphins and a lot of the teams the Kansas City Chiefs has faced and shut down all season long, especially right now. The wide receivers, Zay Flowers and having Odell Beckham, it's making a difference. And oh, by the way, there's a name we haven't said yet. Mark Andrews coming back
He's
this
back.
week. And Isaiah Likely was torching people. If they can find a way to get them both on the field, this could be just absolutely insane. I think Baltimore wins this one and wins it very, very cleanly. And we see a lot of sad Taylor Swift in the stands, and I fully expect the AFC Championship trophy to be handed out to Shake It Off or something like that because, well, trolls are going to troll. So we're both on Baltimore to represent the AFC, so
we're
NFC.
Both going chalk for game number 1.
Going to the NFC, where the San Francisco 49ers will host the Detroit Lions, making their first NFC Championship game in 32 years. Dolphins now have the longest postseason win drought, and I believe the longest postseason championship game drought as well. It could be Dallas. I'm not 100% sure on that second one. Detroit's offense is so balanced, and that is very, very good for Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, both are great. And even if you lose one, you still have the other. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. And then you've gotten contributing pieces around it. No Zach Ertz yet this week, who they signed. but you've got enough around to fill any gaps you have. Jared Goff has been playing at an MVP level of late, and he's been to the Super Bowl before. He has won an NFC Championship game before, given it was with the Rams. Brock Purdy, last year in this game, tore his UCL, kind of derailed the entire game. So I don't know how we can really hold that against him or really look into how he handled last year's game because he was injured before it really got started, really
That
got
was the
going.
game that you had Josh Johnson come in as emergency quarterback.
Then he got knocked out.
Then Purdy actually had to go back in there and just like hand the ball
All
off.
you could do is hand off. He couldn't throw the ball, and everybody's looking like, why is he just handing the ball off if they're down?
He's injured.
28
That's why
he couldn't throw the ball. San Francisco looks like they're gonna have Deebo Samuel back, which is good because they are much better with him.
Definitely critical.
Yeah, it seems he's the linchpin of this offense. The 3-game losing streak were 3 games he missed, and the one he lost.
As you mentioned, that 49ers are 12-1, straight up 10-3 ATS when Deebo not only starts but also finishes the game.
Yeah, the only one they lost with him in it was to Baltimore when Baltimore just turned Brock Purdy over like crazy. CMC, the best running back in football, no debate there. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, a great offense, a good defense as well. This could be an absolute shootout. This could be a defensive struggle. It could be anywhere in between. Both of these teams have the ability to shut down the other or just light up the other. This, I think, is going to be one of the best games we see this postseason. I think it might be the best game we see the rest of the way by quite a bit. So, Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, 49ers are basically regulars in this game. It's sort of like, oh, them again. So,
for the last 5 years, Brock Purdy 2 for 2.
So why do you pick San Francisco? Yeah, everyone tends to think that Detroit's going to get blasted, and it's not that they're, it's not that they're that good. It's just that defense is lousy, and just you sort of have they're caught up in the celebratory nature from the Motor City, and yeah, you had those 2 home wins. And, once again, very emotional. But I think you have some of the wind taken out of the sails now that they're going to Santa Clara. So it's a little bit of a different, arena for them. Also, why San Francisco definitely, while Dan Campbell makes some good decisions, which definitely that helps the Detroit Lion, he can also makes a extremely flawed decision that everybody knows is flaws. You just point to that Cowboys game where all of a sudden, why is he going for 2 again? Kick it, force overtime. Why? Now it's good to be aggressive, but sometimes when you're over aggressive, that's when entire next week is all about the ineligible player, the refs. Why didn't anybody tell them? Why didn't they let them know? Yada. Literally the entire weekend. Something that I sure will be talked about for time until eternity, at least in the NFL medium and on all the shows and everywhere. So, it'll be like the year 2070. And they'll, by the way, remember that time when Dan Campbell, yada. One very important thing. The Lions have not been outdoors since December 10th in Chicago. They played 6 straight indoor games. This is their first outdoor game out of the 7 games they have played. And we tend to know that it's outdoor golf. Part of that's definitely weather. But, you just tend to think there's a lot more that favors San Francisco. Now, on the other hand, why pick Detroit? Once again, Campbell's made some flawed decisions, but he's also made some in-game decisions that have actually helped the Lions more than any other team or any other NFL coaches that help their respective teams. So that's, I know it's sort of that you're sort of doing the flip coin, but yeah, the Green Bay game shows, okay, how much can you trust that San Francisco line to cause pressure? The Packers just absolutely on fire. They had to be put down in the 4th quarter. And, Purdy having a bad game last week, tends to, give Shanahan a little bit of apprehension. You would think he tends to run a ton and a half with the lead. So what he tends to suggest trending San Francisco and of course, once again, Debo. They're 1-4 straight up and 0-5 ATS when he either does not play or does not finish. And remember, Debo's playing, but was 50-50 earlier in the week. So, bottom line, grab a cuppa. This is going to take a bit. Why am I taking San Francisco? Number one, better D. Number two, outdoor golf is not as good as Purdy. Number three, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's the weather, but, weather's perfect, as perfect as it can be for January. Grass can slow down the Lions. 4, once again, has to be said, Campbell might have a go-for-2 moment or something of like it. He's a very aggressive coach. That's both good and bad. It's one game away from the Super Bowl. Sometimes he makes, once again, flawed decisions. Sometimes he makes great decisions. He makes fantastic decisions. Other times it's the flip side of the coin. Once again, a la the Cowboys game that everyone can definitely point to as a number one example of that. 5, is 2 better than 1? Would you rather have Gibbs / Montgomery or CMC for this one game? I'll take CMC. I'm creating a new player now. I'll take CMC any day. Number 6, Detroit on emotional ride. As I pointed out before, might have a little of the wind knocked out of their sails. Now that they're away from Ford Field, all of a sudden, I know you have 49ers fans in there, but it's Detroit fans, but it's majority of 49er fans. So you're not going to get that as much crowd energy as you did in the first 2 games for the playoffs. It's hard to throw also on the 49ers. You take away the Sun God and Williams, Detroit all of a sudden becomes very one-dimensional. Long day if the bats continually get stuffed on the line. And I have to say it again, Detroit's D stepped up big time, but San Francisco's D has always been good for most of the season. Say that one game about the Ravens that they probably don't want anyone to talk about, as it was brutal. But for this week and this game, San Francisco is definitely the better of the 2 teams. I'm picking the San Francisco 49ers. I know I'm going double chalk. Lions have had a hell of a ride, but I think it ends here.
I do have to counter a couple of your points real quick. One, if you take away any team's top 2 wide receivers, they're probably going to be one-dimensional. So yeah, if they can take away Amon-Ra St. Brown and Williams or Laporta, they're probably going to be one-dimensional. But if you can do that with Debo and Ayuk, same thing for San Francisco. And for the weather, the record high in Santa Clara for January is 78 degrees. It's supposed to be a high of 72 on Sunday. And I believe Ford Field actually has a higher wind than's actually going to be occurring because of the air conditioning with a wind speed of about 3 to 4 miles an hour. At kickoff, we're looking at about 65 clear. Like, for an indoor team, you couldn't ask for better conditions. Now, San Francisco is a very good team. Brock Purdy's going to finally have to show up in the conference championship game, stay healthy. He's got a lot of people saying he's not a very good quarterback. He's a product of the system. I don't personally believe that. I think he's a very good quarterback, and I think he's going to be around a long time. I think he's almost like the inverse Brady. When Brady got on the scene, like for the first couple months, it was like, oh, this guy's not great. And then he took off, and they're like, oh, wow, this guy's amazing. Doesn't matter where he was drafted. With Brock Purdy, it's like, well, he's not the MVP, and he was drafted the last pick of the draft, so he's not that good. It's like, no, he's very good. The NFL missed. The rest of the NFL missed, and San Francisco barely didn't miss because they picked with the last pick. All of that being said, I'm taking Detroit. You asked the question, would you rather have one CMC or Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery? I would rather have both running backs, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, for 2 reasons. One, you have that thunder and lightning kind of combo that you can really take advantage of matchups and all of that. And 2, should something happen on the injury front, CMC goes down, the backup is Elijah Mitchell, whereas if one of those other 2 for Detroit goes down, you still have the other. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs might be very close to his level, CMC's level, if he got the same level of workload. I think he's getting pretty close to that level of talent already. All of that being said, the Green Bay Packers fired defensive coordinator Joe Barry last week.
It's a miracle.
After shutting down the 49ers offense pretty well. The 49ers did not move the ball against a much worse defense in Green Bay, but they stepped up. They were able to step up against the San Francisco offense. Detroit's defense has been stepping up the last couple of weeks, holding a good Rams offense and a decent Bucs offense, 23 points each week.
Surprisingly.
And, that big loss that they had to Baltimore, that was in Santa Clara. That was at home. And then last week, of course, with Green Bay, that was at home as well, with the rabid fan base behind them, with rainy, wet conditions that maybe that hurt the Niners, and maybe that's a concern. But if you're playing a dome team, you would rather have wet, rainy conditions, I would think. So I'm going to take Detroit. I took Detroit to start the season, so no reason to back off that now. And I just think that defense with guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Branch, they step up at the right time, just like they did against Tampa Bay to get that last-second interception. They step up at the key moment and make the key play. And I do agree. I think Dan Campbell's going to make some risky decisions, but I just have a hunch they're going to work out, and Detroit's going to go to their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, because Kyle Shanahan can be a little bit more conservative.
Definitely a little bit more conservative, but he's a great coach, and we'll see if he can get him back there. Of course, it's not easy to do, but he's been very close for the last few years. One more piece of news we didn't talk about is Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. The Chargers are a cursed franchise, in my opinion. I don't know if this changes anything. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit better for them in the short term. Hopefully, you can get...
social media's had Chargers going to the Super Bowl now.
Yes, for the 9th year in a row. The Chargers have dominated the offseason, only to not do anything in the playoffs. The Chargers are the only team ever in the history of the NFL to have the number one offense and number one defense and not make the playoffs. So this is a team that is just perennially cursed, and Jim Harbaugh, coming off the Michigan National Championship, I think he's going to be in for a rude awakening, especially when you have a lot of your salary. They're already $44 million over the cap, with a lot of that going to older players like Mike Williams and
if he gets 5 wins, he did better than Urban Meyer.
Well, he could stub his toe and fall apart and not even coach a game and do better than Urban Meyer. But I just think, you look at Keenan Allen, you look at Mike Williams and Khalil Mack taking so much salary cap. They're going to have to get rid of some pieces. Austin Eckler's almost certainly done, so they have to address the running back position as well. This team is going to need a pretty solid reboot here. I don't think they got a guy in Quentin Johnson they can rely on getting rid of a wide receiver they've got to try and save some money. So we'll see. I'm not as optimistic as everybody else about the Chargers all of a sudden coming on strong. I've seen this story too many times to believe it until I see it.
Yeah. Hey, I've seen this one before, like Marty McFly from
that meme. Oh, Chargers had a great offseason. The rebound is coming. I've seen this before several dozen times.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Speaking of Groundhog Day, it's time for final thoughts where we revisit some things we mentioned briefly at the start. Joe!
Yeah, here we go again with all the gambling stuff going on. Oh, and probably the name of the year. New England Patriots wide receiver Kayshon Boutte charged in illegal sports gaming scheme. Okay, so here's the cliff notes. All told, the gambling on his FanDuel account amounted to, are you ready for this? 8,927 wagers, totaling more than $600,000 over 2 years.
And it's worth noting, when you say 8,920 for wagers, that is not a 10-leg parlay being counted for 10 different bets. That is individual tickets. So you make a 10-leg parlay, that is one bet. You make a straight-up bet, it is one bet. So that is 8,900 unique tickets in about a 2-year period.
And also the award for when you're doing nefarious things for the worst username in history. January, the account which had the username Keishan Butte 01, Genius, Real Men of Genius, yes, began to receive several deposits from that card, as well as hundreds of deposits from another credit card that listed Butte as the payer. According to the affidavit, FanDuel provided state police with a complete history of the first account's nearly 9,000 wagers that span from April 2022 to May 2023, over 2 years. $637,537 was wagered from the account, with 556,272 won. 17 of the bets were on college football games, and 6 involved LSU football.
That's where it became a problem because he went to LSU.
The NCAA, of course, prohibits anyone in college athletics, from athletes to coaches to athletic directors, from participating in any kind of sports betting. Also bans them from providing information that could influence a wager. Two of them included bets that Butte made on himself as part of an 8-leg parlay in which a bettor wagers on multiple outcomes at once. Police said Butte bet that he would score a touchdown and gain at least 82.5 yards against Florida State in the season opener September 4th, 2022. He did neither, recording 20 yards on 2 catches in the 24-23 loss. So, yeah, even though you have Calvin Ridley out there and he had to take a mandatory vacation from football, now, of course, Mr. Butte should be in for an interesting time, as holy crap, just the amount. Well, he was good at it because that much. I think anybody is you're kicking back with the fine cigar and the quality IPA or two, and you're having a steak dinner every single night that week. But just absolutely crazy, and yeah, I think he's going to be in for a vacation soon.
Yeah, he was arrested for this in Louisiana. We'll see what that means long term with his floundering career with the Patriots. He was only in his second year though, so
yeah, because I heard that I was listening. I forget who said it. That might be because it happened in college, that maybe he'll be able to get off of the charges.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how significant the charges are in regards to like a criminal thing. I don't know how significant the charges will be in regards to.
I think I saw at least one was a felony.
Okay. We've seen felons continue to play in the NFL before. They can find ways around things. So I don't know how significant it's going to be. And frankly, what he did in college does not concern the Patriots too much. I don't know how the NFL is going to view it. It might be one of those things like, hey, is there a Keishan Butte 02 out there we need to look out betting on Patriots games? Now, the positive side of this thing is he was betting on LSU to win. He was betting on himself to do well. So it's not like an integrity of the game concern. It's just violating the rules. But
he wasn't throwing.
Yeah, at least it wasn't like a throwing. It's not a good situation. You don't want players betting on the games they're a part of or the league they're a part of. I don't think NFL players should be betting on NFL football. I don't think NBA players should be betting on the NBA and all that thing.
Sports Shuffle Audible.
Okay.
Should NFL players play fantasy football?
If it's free, maybe. If it's paid, no. Because that at some point becomes a form of gambling to me, and with the inside knowledge, I would lean no. Now, I know there was the story that came out about Hollywood Brown trading himself because there wasn't a place in the offense this year. So that's like, but it's also one of those, like, if you're a defensive player and you've got Tyreek Hill on your team and you have to guard him this week, well, I might need 3 touchdowns from Tyreek. Especially if it's a paid league.
I missed.
Yeah. I can't. He's just so fast. I can't keep up with it. Like, I don't love it, but it's less egregious.
Definite gray area.
It's one of those things, like, if you are an NFC player and you want to play in an AFC only kind of league where there's not a whole lot of crossover, okay. But as far as like full and paid and all that, it gets a little skeevy on that.
Okay, now we go to your final thoughts.
My final thought. Previously on the Sports Shuffle, you may have heard me say some things about the city and the team in Buffalo that were not positive. And I stand by every single one of them because I was home alone on Sunday night watching the game. I went disc golf with my buddy Zach. We did a lefty battle where I played lefty and kind of aggravated my knee. So instead of going hockey, I'm like, I'm going to rest up. Wife was down visiting family, and I'm watching this game, and I'm realizing I'm rooting against Buffalo as if they're playing Miami. And I enjoyed every minute as that kick went wide right, and it had to go wide right. That the poetic justice of the universe saying, "Hey, Bills, right here, buddy. We're going to not only rip your heart out, we're going to remind you of the worst pain you've ever felt." Go wide right. And to watch the crowd weep, including the guy that pulls it down over his eyes. And I, full disclosure, am home alone. I point and laugh at the screen as he is crying. Because, that's it's probably unhealthy how much I dislike Buffalo Bills and the rest of that city, but mostly Bills.
If you were in an apartment, there would have been a noise complaint.
Yeah. You would have thought that I just heard the funniest joke of all time, and it was Buffalo Bills losing. Anyways, that's my final thought. The world is safe from the Buffalo Bills winning another Super Bowl for one more year. Now we just got to get Taylor Swift out of the playoffs, and I think we can all be okay with what happens after that.
Because it's amazing how they're already trying to set up a Chiefs Lions Super Bowl even before anything happens. You know, Eminem for the Lions and Taylor Swift for the Chiefs. It's like, how about you play the games first?
I will say this. Baltimore pounded the Lions and the 49ers. The Chiefs barely they hung tough with the Lions week number 1. That would be a much better game in my opinion. I mean, every game's unique and it's not necessarily a precursor to what would happen the second time they face, but I don't know. I think I kind of want to see that Super Bowl just because I think it's going to be the best option of the games, but I don't think it's what we're going to get. Anyways, that's our time. So probably not going to have a show next week because, well, we can recap 2 games and then talk about the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
I would rather stick sticks in my eyes.
Or eat fried toothpicks, which apparently is a thing.
People are weird, Joel. People are weird. But yeah, we'll be back before the Super Bowl. We'll do our traditional 5-way parlay kind of bet just to see what would happen. In Florida, you can actually make some stupid bets this year. I might actually throw not a lot, but some on some
pizza money.
Yeah,
since we started the Sports Shuffle, with Little Caesars, we gotta end it. We have, Circle of Life thing.
Oh, the Circle of Life. Lion King. Oh, man. Another season pretty much gone. 3 games left plus the Pro Bowl before we get to the dark times of the offseason waiting on baseball to start.
And the flag football game. Yay.
Also, one quick final thought. The Sharks' new black jersey is one of the best that they've had, and they already have one of the best jerseys.
Sharks and Lightning both won this week.
Ooh, hey, look at that. Yeah, I was playing inline hockey, and there was a Rangers fan nearby, and I'm just gearing up. And I wear like a faux Sharks jersey over my gear when I do inline because I have it. And it's a Capitals fan insulting a Rangers fan. Yeah, your team sucks this year. Ovi's washed. Yeah, well, your team lost to the effing Sharks. So let's go. Your team sucks. And yeah, fun times were had by 2 of us at least. But yeah, back in 2 weeks to do Super Bowl, and then we'll probably do a show or 2 after that, recapping fantasy season busts that that happened. Great picks. Things we're looking at.
Why did these players suck in 2023?
Yeah, looking ahead to 2024. Some stuff we learned. Players we're gonna keep an eye on in the offseason. Hopefully,
are you drafting Calvin Ridley next year?
I didn't draft him this year because I thought exactly what happened with him would happen. He was going to be inconsistent and fluky. And Christian Kirk is the most important wide receiver on that team. It was very obvious once he got hurt how that team fell apart without him. But that's our show. I am Flying Ryan Ryan Gokers along with
Tampa Motormouth, Joel World.
And again, back in 2 weeks for the Super Bowl preview. And with that, we go.